This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.
Well, his first ever coffee table book of his photography, it's called Life's Fragile Moments, and a new remix version of I Should Have Known, originally on his Photograph Smile album. He's been nominated for Grammys. He's a documentary filmmaker, an author, a philanthropist, quite the photographer whose work has been exhibited around the world, and he's our friend Julian Lennon. All the info, julianlennon.com. Julian, with your photography book, this is, I'm going to hold it up for everyone to see right here. This is, I can't believe, because you've been a photographer for so long, that this is the first ever coffee table book.
Well, yeah.
Takes a while to put it together, right?
Well, no, it's not even that. I mean, I had approached other publishers before about doing a book, notable publishers, that just weren't interested. And I was just very fortunate that this company based out of Berlin, Tonoise, who are very well established in this world, asked me earlier this year whether I'd like to do a book or not. And they themselves said, "Why haven't you done one?" And I said, "Because I've not had the opportunity." So, this was a first chance at this. And the thing was, I was also gearing up for quite possibly the most important and biggest exhibition of my life so far, which was at the Photography Museum in Venice during the Biennale. So the timing was beautiful. And my dream, which came to fruition, thankfully, was that I have the book ready and in time for the exhibition opening.
Yeah.
And in fact, after having, which kind of put a bit of a push on getting the book done in time for, the show. But what happened was, having edited the book down from thousands and thousands of pictures to a couple of hundred, this kind of became my guideline and enabled me to do the same idea, which was a retrospective of my work, for the museum exhibition too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So it was a great help, and the idea behind the book, of course, was with a retrospective, is because a lot of people just don't know that I'm a photographer, fine art photographer. So this was a way of really, sharing the work and the love of the work that I have from over the past, I don't know how many years it's been now, but long enough, since I think 2010, something around then.
Well, that's 14 years now.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's crazy, right,
yeah.
man?
Time, I don't know what it means anymore.
Oh, my God. Well, listen, over the years, you've just been talking about this. You've gone to some amazing places around the world, captured these incredible images of places and people, famous and not famous. There is a new, and I'm sure you're aware of this, the Ken Burns documentary on Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah, I haven't
Have you
seen
watched it?
No, I haven't seen it.
I have it on DVR too. I haven't gotten all the way through it.
I will watch that for sure.
But, he did a lot of paintings that were unfinished.
Yeah.
But in his journal, what I found fascinating is that he actually wrote, and you probably know this too, that anything you want to learn about life or people, you can see in nature.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I thought was brilliant from
Right.
1502 or whatever, whenever he wrote this. You know what I mean?
Yes, no, absolutely.
And then you have a lot of those type of natural sort of nature photographs that you do as well. I mean, I follow you on Instagram. I see what you're doing all the time,
Well, I started really, my real interest in photography was when I started taking pictures of clouds. And that I've told this story a number of times, but back in the day when we used to do long haul flights, you only got one movie. That's all that there was technology wise.
Right.
You had one movie and a bite to eat, and then you either got a good book or you go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I always had trouble sleeping on planes. So
me too.
While everybody else was sleeping, I'd stare out the window. and it could be morning, it could be evening, or just starlight. And I would always be fascinated by the beauty of the world around us. And so, on these flights, I also, it was a moment of either complete reflection, where you thought about your life and where you're headed and what's going to happen, or you actually thought about nothing at all, and you just felt at ease and at peace. And I just thought the clouds and what I was seeing with the light and the colors at sunrise or sunset was so beautiful that they happen once for a fraction of a second.
Yeah.
As is our life, that everything that we see and everything that surrounds us only happens once and for a split second. And so I started capturing those moments in the sky. And it was only later, when I started doing trips for the White Feather Foundation, my charity, that I started to carry a camera along with me, literally as a journal of my trip. And then when I got home, I would see all these pictures and go, well, actually, some of them tell a story. It's really quite interesting, how people from across the world can relate to these pictures. And the other thought was that a lot of people had written to me saying that they were, either disabled, or they didn't have the finances to travel around the world, and that the photographs that I was taking were transporting them to these places so that they were able to learn about these different cultures around the world and different people and how they live. And I thought that was kind of special. I thought that was a nice way of, in many respects, telling the truth from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
No, the pictures never had, at least I never took pictures with an agenda as such. It was just, again, about capturing time, a place, people, and what they were doing. And I found that fascinating. It seems that other people do too, obviously,
It's interesting because the analogy I'm going to make for you right now is like if you had a guitar and I had a guitar and you played the opening riff to Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple and I played the opening riff, it would sound different. We could have the same guitar. We could both have a Les Paul, and it would sound different.
Yeah.
Now, and if I asked you to take a photo of something and I took the same exact photo, it's going to look different.
Yeah, perspective is unique to oneself in many respects. So yeah, I mean that's one level of encouragement that I had from a dear friend of mine, Tracy, who said, "Jules, only you can take your pictures." It took me a second to think about that, and then I went, "Oh, I get it. Okay, I do get it." So that's an important aspect to photography because it's telling your vision, your story of the situation, but not a biased one. But just this is what you see is the truth that I see.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting because what fascinates me about you and photographers in general. I mean, I had Henry Dilson here. You're aware of him. The legend.
Love Henry. He's
the best, and he's got these insane. I mean, he gave me a photo of Hendrix on stage at Woodstock.
He was everywhere back in the day.
And he still is.
He still is.
He still is. He's fantastic. But the ability to take the camera and point it at something, and it's, I don't know what happens. You have some electricity going on in your brain. You're like, click now.
You're anticipating
click now.
The situation.
It's that's magic to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. I don't want to say this for everybody, but certainly for myself, and maybe Henry in the earlier days, is that you were wishing for the best result. You didn't know if you had it or not. So it was only when Henry kind of went back to the lab, or was under the red light, and he saw what he actually captured. And that's not, although I only deal in digital, it's exactly the same thing for me. I don't actually look at the shot that I've taken on a digital camera until I actually get back in front of the computer, a nice big screen, and I can see what I've done.
Yeah.
So you put a lot of faith in that moment in time that you try and capture, and it's more often than not you tend to be lucky or you get the shot, but there are times where you miss it too.
Yeah. I mean, like if you go to a concert and you want to photograph, Keith Richards or something, and you happen to be in the pit for the first 3 songs, flash,
I've been there, by the way.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I know that. I've come away from some early U2 concerts that I went to with near enough nothing, just because I didn't. I was not. I'm not a technical photographer.
Right.
I go on a time and a place and natural lighting. So if you haven't got the technical side of it together, you can miss out a lot, which I did back in the day.
Well, you can say the same about those concert photographers too. They just, I don't know.
Listen, some
Kevin
of those,
Mazur, wow.
Some of those earlier shots that aren't in focus or don't have the right angle or the right lighting are some of the best shots.
Oh yeah, right, yeah.
But I also know a lot of professional photographers that because they weren't great shots, threw that stuff away back in the day.
Oh.
And I'm going, because one or two have said to me, why do you keep every single photo? I said, because that shot, which looks like crap now, may appeal to me in 10 years' time.
Right.
And may be something that expresses something that's not important now, but is important later. So, I hold on to pretty much everything.
We're talking with Julian Lennon about his first ever coffee table book. It's called Life's Fragile Moments. I think, and now correct me if I'm wrong, in the book, there are photos of some famous people, right? Sting,
a few dodgy
Lana
people.
Del Rey, Elvis Costello in the book.
Yeah.
Have you done a lot of those celebrity photos over the years?
I've done none.
You've
none.
done, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
Oh, well, I don't mean none, but I mean apart from you two and a few other people, but those were not particularly, they weren't sessions as such.
Right.
There wasn't setups with lighting and crew and none of that. So it was, again, of the moment. I mean, those particular shots with K.D. Lang and Elvis Costello, etc., those were born out of an experience that I was offered when Jack Bender, director, was filming a documentary of a live performance after it was for Leonard Cohen.
Oh, yeah.
And so they did a show up in Montreal, and he said to me, listen, I like your work. He said, I can't pay you anything, but if you want to come up for the experience, I'll put you up in the hotel room, give you an all-access pass, and just take pictures and see if something happens.
Yeah.
And if you get something, then maybe we'll do a book or maybe, whatever. And I said, I'd love to. Yeah, scares the crap out of me. I get heavy anxiety, but I went and it was an amazing experience because the harsh contrast black and white stuff was actually, those shots came in between the performances when the artist either was going on stage or coming off stage, and they would be interviewed for like 10-15 minutes, and literally they had one spotlight on them, and that was it. And so I was fortunate enough that light really worked for me really beautifully in the high contrast black and white, and you just see these incredible.
Plus they weren't performing too, right?
No, they were in the middle of conversation or thinking or listening to a question, or thinking about their response. So again, nothing was staged, not from my perspective anyway.
What was your first camera ever? Do you remember?
I mean, I say this time and time again, I pretty much believe every family home had a throwaway camera at some point, that you just take to the pharmacy or the chemist and they develop the film.
Kodak, whatever, yeah.
But the first camera that I fell in love with was one that Dad had that was the Polaroid SX70 land camera, the one that folded up.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you've
I
seen
remember
that.
those.
Yeah. And what I loved about them was the fact that they developed right in front of you. And,
you got the little.
You got the little.
It popped out.
Yeah, the little picture popped out, and you saw the picture emerge. And what I loved about that was the kind of instant gratification you could have, and that's why
people use those for album covers now.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I tried using film, but I can be a bit clumsy sometimes. So I would always ruin the film sometimes if I was loading or unloading the camera improperly. And so when digital came along, I went, this is I like, because again, instant gratification, plus it allowed me to change things slightly. I'm not a Photoshop kind of guy, but one of my visions or dreams was that with digital, what I wanted to prove to myself was that I could make digital images look like film. And I think I achieved that by I did an exhibition in Amsterdam, and it was like a Brit rock thing where all these English photographers were showing just a couple of pieces, and I was cornered by this rather strange woman from America who was a fine art photography critic, and I thought,
here we go.
I'm going to be in trouble here. And she cornered me for quite a while, and I was trying to be polite and be responsive. And then at the end of the interview, she just said, so, do you shoot on film or digital? And I said, you tell me. And
that's beautiful.
And so I just went, thank you very much.
Yes.
And that's when I had belief in the work that I was doing, even, to continue and just now really enjoy the process.
Well, it's a similar analogy to Pro Tools and analog tape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes, analog sounds amazing, whatever, 2-inch tape, 24 tracks, but when Pro Tools came along, wow.
Yeah.
It saved so much time and just developing photos.
I know. I have to say I'm a Logic man myself, but
okay,
yes, certainly, and certainly, what you can do these days is astounding.
Yeah.
On a laptop.
Oh my God.
It's or even on your phone.
Billie Eilish and Phineas. I mean, come on.
Well, yeah. I mean, magic. Pure magic.
Let's talk about this new remix version of your song "I Should Have Known." Originally on your Photograph Smile album. I know this song came out, what was it, 1998 or something when it first came out?
Somewhere.
Somewhere, something like that. I looked it up. I think that's about close anyway.
Yeah.
Lots of people have had their hearts broken. People with broken hearts.
Oh, yeah.
But you pull no punches in the lyrics here.
No.
Tell us about this song and why you remixed it.
Well, I Should Have Known was always a favorite of mine, and that particular song is the reason I did that album, because I had met my co-producing partner Bob Rose, and he'd been a fan, but he said, well, play me something new. And I just picked up the guitar and played I Should Have Known. And on the back of that, he said, let's do it.
Wow.
So it was just a very simple, straightforward, very beautiful, emotional song. And I just felt that we didn't back then do the best job on the mixes for that particular album. I love the album, but the mixes could be better. And I just think in today's world you can do better.
Right.
So after having released Jude, a couple of years ago, I'd worked with Spike Stent, who's a world famous mixer, but he did such a great job, and we had such
that
a
album
great,
sounds great.
Yeah, we had a great relationship, and of course we were mixing virtually because we were, it's COVID. Yeah. So that was a weird thing.
Of course.
Just meeting the guy on screen and then mixing the album back and forth live.
Again, technology. Wow.
Technology, yeah. I mean, it didn't always work. It wasn't always easy, and there were many, many problems. But at the end of the day, we got the album that we wanted, and And so I thought, you know what, I should have known always comes into my head quite often. So I just thought, why don't I see if Spike can do this, mix this? I mean, I'm sure he can, but let me throw it at him and see what he thinks about it. And so he sent me the mix back, and it was beautiful and warm and clear and emotional. And I thought, this is great. I want to put it out. Let me release it. And I'd literally been in LA at I do these drives when I'm in LA. I've got a little convertible Mini, and if I'm not working and I've got an afternoon off, I drive over the Santa Monica Mountains, different routes every time, and end up on a couple of different beaches in Malibu or even
PCH is beautiful, man.
Ventura County.
Yeah.
And so I was there on a Sunday with some friends, one of whom was a director and producer, and her husband who's a DJ. And I said, it would be beautiful just to do a slow motion video at sunset along this beach. By Wednesday, we'd done it. we'd filmed it, and so that was lovely to be able to do that. And I just thought, let's put it out there, just for people who don't know the album or haven't heard the song to hear it. But also, it was a trial for me to see, how Spike would work on this stuff. And for me now, I'd like to go back into that particular album with him and remix the whole thing.
Sure.
So, fingers crossed we'll get around to that when time allows on both fronts.
I just finished, and I'm a real sucker for these rock and roll memoirs and these biographies, and in some cases memoirs, autobiographies. And I didn't know that this one existed. I was over in Italy, staying at a friend's house, and I see in his little bookcase there's this really thick book, white cover. It's called Dear Boy, from Tony Fletcher, and it's a biography of Keith Moon, which
wow.
I had no idea. I read the Townsend book. I didn't get the Daltrey book, and it was really it was that thick. It was unbelievable. And I'm wondering if you have a Keith Moon story. Did you ever meet him you never did?
Sadly not. No.
Oh, okay.
But probably nearly met him. But,
right, I was going to say, yeah.
I did know. I have known Daltrey. I worked with him at the Albert Hall on a musical that we did together.
Oh God.
Which was called. Oh my God, my head. Dears. It was a musical taken from a Lewis Carroll poem that was turned into a musical by a guy called Mike Batt, who's a singer-songwriter who had a very, very famous TV show that I watched growing up called The Wombles.
Okay.
But that's another story entirely. But yeah, Roger Daltrey and I... there was a lot of guests that night. And who was the artist you were talking that was in here before?
Henry Diltz, the photographer?
No, the musical artist. It was Moody Blues.
Oh, yeah, Justin Hayward.
So Justin was in that, Roger Daltrey.
Great guy, Justin.
Yeah, very, very sweet
Wonderful
guy
man.
indeed. Very sweet guy. So it was... that was an important, a really unique one-off experience at the Albert Hall. Sorry to take a left turn.
That's okay,
just there,
but you didn't meet Moon the Loon.
Yeah, no, everybody else but.
I guess I think so.
Else but, yeah.
Great book, by the way. Continuing the rewind a little bit here. Have you seen or are you interested in seeing Beatles 64 on Disney Plus? Oh, you've seen it. What'd you think?
Yeah. I liked it because there was a lot of footage I'd not seen before.
Right.
I found some very interesting, some a bit boring.
Right, yeah.
Because it was just like being, on the sidelines watching what the hell was going on at that time, which was pretty crazy. And especially, seeing the guys at their the young age.
I thought Murray the K was
before
like
it all kicked off,
everywhere. He was like in every single shot.
That was very, very funny. That was, I mean, you could tell that I think that they were getting a little annoyed at the fact that he just wouldn't go away.
Who's this DJ?
But it was amusing too. There were some great moments in that. I do have to say that as well. But I mean, it was a great thing to be able to see, no question.
I would tell you something bizarre, and if I haven't told you this, I'm surprised that I haven't. At that time, '64, Ed Sullivan Show. My father was a writer for Melody Maker and Billboard, based in New York.
Wow. Okay.
So he went to Idlewild Airport or JFK Airport, whatever it was called then, for the arrival. He was covering it as a journalist. And then he somehow got invited to the hotel, whether it was the Warwick or the Plaza, I can't remember. He called our house in New Jersey to put me on the phone and my sister on the phone with Ringo.
Right.
My sister started screaming. I grabbed the phone away from her. And I spoke to Ringo, and he called him. He was next to him. Yeah. My point being that he went to the taping for the Ed Sullivan Show.
Okay, yeah.
And the person that he sat next to, or he stood next to on the side of the stage, was your mother.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
He told us that story.
Wow.
A million times.
Wow, that's
over
fantastic.
The years.
I had no idea.
And so he was in the music business. Then he started a PR firm after that. Brought all the albums home, and everything. This probably why I am where I am.
Probably
these days. But I thought you would enjoy that, hearing about your mother.
Yeah, sure.
Is there one movie that you watch all the time, no matter if you've seen it a million times, if it comes on?
Well, that's left field. I have to say that I think one of the best movies that I've seen on every level, from the directing to the storyline to the acting, specifically the acting, really, was Gladiator.
Yes. I will always watch that.
The original.
Yeah.
Because every actor in that movie was so incredibly and beautifully cast. And they all were so believable in their portrayals of the characters. I don't think I've seen a film quite like that since.
I haven't seen the new one.
Not of that kind of grandeur,
Yeah.
I personally, I don't think they should have touched it after that. It was too good
Ridley
a film.
Scott, yeah.
Too good a film to mess with.
Yeah.
Don't screw that, because you don't want to put that in a different light by
Who was the legendary English actor that played
Oliver Reed?
He was like the boss of the slave gladiators.
English Richard Harris.
And he died shortly after that.
Richard Harris, yeah.
Not Richard.
Not Richard
He
Harris.
was the king.
Yes.
The guy who was like, he had dark skin, but he was English. Russell Crowe loved him. I can't remember his name. I think that's it.
Yeah, Oliver Reed.
I think that's him.
Oh, yeah, no, he was a classic. It's quite amazing that he got that performance out of him, because
he was sick, right?
Well, not only that, but Oliver Reed has, throughout his life, been a real character. I mean, he would turn up on most talk shows completely drunk out of his mind and do all kinds of strange things. And, he most in the early days felt that he was an amazing actor, which he was. Very, very, very intense indeed. But, with a lot of those old boys back in the day, from Peter
Richard
O'Toole,
Harris, you said.
Yeah. All those guys were party animals.
Oh, big time.
And then some. They could all put us under the table, that's for sure.
Well, I'm gonna do one more film reference, and I just happened to stumble upon this the other day. Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll.
Oh, yeah, God.
And then your performance of Johnny B. Good. So killer, man. Well, you had the best band in the world behind you. I get it. But your performance was fantastic in that. Well, Tell me about that.
It was a bit rough and ready. I was 20, 21, but a very naive and very young one.
Yeah.
And I remember ending up
St. Louis, right?
St. Louis. It was St. Louis, yeah. And I went to where they were rehearsing just for an introduction, and Keith, of course, Keith Richards. I think he was the band leader.
Yeah, he was
the MD,
organizing everything, right?
And Chuck were there, and you didn't want to be in the middle of that conversation. There had been some really rough moments there, and so that freaked me out to begin with. But it was Taylor Hackford that was the director.
Yes.
And we did two filmings of that. So
of the performance?
Of the performance. And
okay.
I was a little disappointed personally because we'd rehearsed it, and I didn't know this. This was not a fact in my world, but I didn't know that, you can rehearse something one way with Chuck Berry, but when it came to showtime, he would do a completely different show. And so we'd rehearsed particular harmonies in a particular way, and I would do this and he would do that. And, there was no real rehearsal. We went into it, we performed live in front of the audience, and we did that twice for the film. And when I came on, I was as nervous can be. I was, petrified. And at the beginning of the song, we're into it, and then he takes a left turn, and you can see me in the film going, because I don't know where he's gone.
Yeah.
He'd taken another
left
harmony.
turn, right?
Yeah. And it took me a minute to come back to it. And so I thought, well, why did they use that one and not to the other version?
One, right? Yeah.
But, maybe it was just an endearing quality of fact at that point in time. Maybe it just showed that this was real, very real.
And that's Chuck, and that's how he is, or whatever.
And I was a newbie, and it was all very weird and exciting, but nerve-wracking at the same time. And
I remember the argument that you're talking about, which they kept in the film between Keith and Chuck, when they're going like, on a guitar riff. They were arguing over how much to bend a string and when to bend a string for literally like an hour.
Oh, yeah. No, but that was just one of many exciting moments, without question,
Julian Lennon is with us, and we're talking about his fantastic first ever coffee table book of his photography. It's called Life's Fragile Moments. You got to go out and get this just in time for the holidays. Look at that. And a new remixed version of I Should Have Known, originally on his Photograph Smile album. You can download it now. You can get it wherever you stream it. And, Julian, a lot of your posts on Instagram, and I love this about you, #thankful.
Yeah.
You're always accentuating the positive,
Yeah, of course. No, you have to. Every day, you wake up. I've in my lifetime, and only recently, I had a cancer scare, and I told a lot of people about that people need to go and get checked up,
Yeah.
And I've just had another one, so it's especially important that you appreciate, life's fragile moments.
God, there you go.
Thank you very much, ladies and
Absolutely. Let's see, what else I wanted to ask you. Oh, yeah. Did you close a recording studio? Did you have a studio that you...
I had a home studio.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, no, I was just... I decided after 26 to 30 years, somewhere in there, that it was time for me to move from where I was. I just needed a real change of pace.
Right.
I nothing wrong with where I was. It was just time.
Right.
And good times there, bad times there. Just a change of pace was needed. So I just decided, I luckily found a place that I've absolutely fallen in love with. I kind of downsized, but
well, you can do that now, right?
Yeah, but it's got a bit more land. So I was, and I just wanted that little closeness, little more connection with nature. Yeah. And I found this place, and so I've got to work on it. I figured I need to start closing things down. And so the studio, funnily enough, just briefly, I had moved my studio into the house while I was rebuilding. And so most of Jude was done, in the house, in this temporary studio room. And then when the studio was finished and I moved the stuff back, I couldn't relate to it anymore. And it didn't feel right to be in there anymore. So I just went, the time I spent here, it's over. Yeah. I've had a great time and a magical time, and I've done some great work here with Everything Changes and Photograph Smile. But it's time to move on. Yeah. And so that was an important closure in my life to moving on to what's next.
Okay, last question. It might be hard for you. Favorite band or artist?
Impossible.
Of all time, give me top 3. Give me 3.
Impossible. It's impossible. I mean, you can't. Listen, one of my things is about pigeonholing. It's a beef I have about pigeonholing and having particular favorites, because I think that's an impossibility. You can be guided towards, like, what's your favorite color or what's your favorite, but there are too many beautiful versions of music and styles of music and characters in music, from fusion to jazz to classical to, it's almost an impossibility. But seeing as you've cornered me,
you can give me 3, you can give me 2, you can give me 5.
I'm going to say one that I've always said, which is a Keith Jarrett clone concert.
Oh yeah. Takes you away, man. Keith Jarrett. Wow.
Well, he was one of my earliest inspirations musically, believe it or not. Another question that was asked of me recently is kind of what would be an album that would be like a desert island disc, that if I was trapped on an island, what could I live with forever?
10 songs.
And believe it or not, I said Simple Things by 07.
Okay, I'm not aware of that.
Oh, so this.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out now.
It's a chill out album with several artists singing. It's a band that I fell in love with and is a go-to album of mine. Always when I'm not sure what to listen to or how to feel or where to go, I tend to put this on, and it just takes me to another place. Because there's quite a few different styles within the album, but there is continuity throughout too. But some beautiful performances by some well-known singers in there before they were really well known, like Sia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a few others in there. And I would probably have to say, to really top it all off, would be Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah, I mean, masterpiece.
Yeah,
absolutely. Julian Lennon, thank you so much, man.
My pleasure for the weird 3 choices I just gave.
This is Out of the Box with your host, Jonathan Clark. Out of the Box, Sunday nights at 9 on Q1043.